bad grants, the worst grant you can apply for, and 4 key signs to avoid them. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Rinde from AskRinde, and welcome to the #1 community for real estate, income, grants, and credit. So if you'd like to know what bad grants are and what to look for to avoid them, make sure you watch the video to the end. Leave a comment below if you need help with anything. So as we're always talking about grants here on my channel, grants that are available for small business, for personal, for individual, it's important to know about bad grants, grants that you should not be applying for, and the bad side of grants. So as I always share here on my channel, grants are segmented into 2 categories, government and private. So in the private sector, grants are evaluated based on what they do, the result. So what are the deliverables? What is the impact of the grant? What is the outcome of the grant? And also, what's the strategic value of the grant? So while there are a lot of grants doing good in the world and giving value to society, there are also bad grants. And you need to know the difference and avoid applying for the bad grants. So these are 4 key indicators and signs of bad grants, grants to avoid that you should not be applying for. Number 1, rogue grants. So rogue grants are grant programs that have not been set up at all, meaning that they have not gone through the decision-making process to even factor in those who will be impacted at the end. In addition to that, they have no community accountability whatsoever. So these grants end up being a big waste of time. Don't apply for those because you're just going to be wasting your time. They actually have no grant program whatsoever attached to that grant. Number 2, restrictions. So in grants, restrictions are quite normal. As we've seen recently with all the applications for small business grants, there are restrictions and criteria that they want in order for your business to be able to apply for the grant, such as location. Some grants are location specific. Also, they want seasoning. In some cases, they want you to be able to apply for the grant if your business has been in business for a certain number of years or as of a certain date. Also, we've seen restrictions when it comes to revenue. Some grants are available only for those businesses that have actually hit a certain revenue threshold, either over or under. So restrictions are normal. But when it comes to bad grants, the restrictions that we're referring to and we're sharing and talking about are restrictions that border on exclusion. So there are grants out there that actually exclude individuals, exclude people based on other criteria other than qualifications that the business will hold. So these are grants that are actually excluding people based on race, creed, color. This is one of the reasons why there's been a deliberate focus on giving grants to the underserved communities. So black communities, for example, receive about 2% of total philanthropic giving on an annual basis. So oftentimes you may look at all the grants and all the grant programs that are being launched and you may think, wow, every time you turn around, there's a new grant program for the black community, there's a new grant program for the Hispanic community, etc. But that's not the case. It's actually a small fraction of giving being done to those communities. And that's one of the reasons why they're actually focusing on these underserved communities, because of the fact that there's been so many restrictions and bad grants given over the years in excluding those groups from getting access to capital, free money for their businesses that you do not have to pay back. Number 3, rescission. Now, oftentimes you'll see grant programs have a rescission policy. Now, most times they actually will move forward and give the grants, and very rarely will they rescind the grants. However, there are bad grants out there that actually plant these seeds and move forward their grant programs and have a high level of rescission, meaning that they actually retract the grant after putting the applicant through the entire process and awarding the grant, and in some cases making the awardees wait for months before rescinding the grant. So there are grant sources and bad grants out there that have done and have a high level of rescission, and that's something you need to be aware of and be watchful for. Just because the grant has been awarded and it's been announced, until the money actually clears your account, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to have free clearance on that. You need to make sure that you're aware of the fact that they have rescission policies in some of these grant programs. And in cases where you actually find a grant that has a high level of rescission, that's a bad grant, because it can actually mean that you can actually go through the entire process, be awarded the grant, and be at risk of having the entire award rescinded close to the time that you're supposed to get the money. Number 4, application fees. So I've shared previously on my channel that you should avoid applying for grants that have application fees, because oftentimes those are meant to entice you to apply for the grant and bring in revenue for the grant source in order for them to give the money out and make a profit. So this actually happens quite often. There are people who would actually put ads out on Google and entice you to apply for the grant with an application fee. And you may be one of 100,000 or 200,000 people, and they've made more money off the grant application fee than what the grant they're giving out is going to be. So in essence, they actually will entice you to apply and collect application fees, and they may be giving out $1,000, but they may be making $100,000. So it's something you need to be aware of. That's part of the grant fraud that's out there that is being policed, but you need to be aware of avoiding grant applications that have application fees, because oftentimes the grant that they are going to be giving out is far smaller than what the people who are they're pitching or they're targeting to apply for the grant is. So in essence, that's actually a business for them to basically put that grant out, make more money off the application fees, and then give out only a small portion of the revenue that they have come in. So these are just a few of the 4 key signs of what bad grants are. In contrast, the best grants have transparency, accountability, and open learning, meaning that they give training along with money. And finally, they have flexibility. And with all grants, the timeline varies and the grant amount varies. But it's important for you to know the difference between bad grants and good grants. So to help you, we've created a bad grants report, which actually includes all the tips that we have regarding how to spot bad grants to help you avoid making the wrong applications, avoid wasting time, and most importantly, avoid being scammed or losing money. So if you'd like to get our bad grants report, you can get it right in our resource area by simply going to my website at AskRinde.com, clicking on grants, and getting started today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. You can also email me. My email address is AskRindeNetwork@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.